Hey, it's Chuck. We are not bemoaning the noon kickoff. We are now owning it. It's a badge of honor. We're the lunatic fringe that defines our coach's legacy when it comes to this game. They don't get to define that outside the family. We're cut from a different cloth for Ohioans. He's got it all, man. He's even got the jaw. You know the jaw. You see that jaw and you're just like, yeah, man, that's a dude. Do I want Michigan to beat Oklahoma? No way in hell. I don't know what world I'm living in. This is insane to me. And if you saw my outburst, I apologize. It's showtime now. And welcome into Buckeye Huddle Primetime. It's your friend Chuck. Appreciate you so much for joining me. And we are starting off on a really bad foot, right off the rip on a bad foot, as our buddy Ryan says. Chuck Biggins at Rivals is reporting that USC is putting on the full court press on flipping Caden Dixon-Wyatt. Hopefully Heartline can fend them off. That is not how we want to start the show, Ryan. Not at all. It's not how we want to start the show, buddy. We got a lot to talk about today. Since we last talked on Monday, just a few days ago, Ohio State has landed two more prospects on this historic run they've been on. I talked to one of them because his story is so doggone interesting. I had to get a couple quotes, and I've got some good ones to share with you. We also have some updated rankings from both Rivals and 247, which sometimes interest some, sometimes don't. I think they're kind of important right now as Ohio State has gone all in on evaluating undervalued prospects in their senior film. So some interesting things with at least a couple of these guys that you're going to want to hear. Ryan Day had his press conference yesterday, and then just an hour ago, his lightning round at the Woody. We'll discuss those press conferences and what he had to say about his ailing wide receivers and a certain running back. And we have got the worst weekend slate of games that we have seen all year, maybe of our entire lives. Of course, it's the week that the SEC is playing Mercer and East Carolina State and such. We'll also take your calls at the end of the show. If anybody wants to call in, you can call in. All you got to do is go to the video description and hit that link. When you hit that link, you'll be able to watch the show from behind the wall here in the studio with me, and I will pull you up when I'm ready. The only thing is there's just one rule, man. You got to be entertaining. There's not back and forth. We're going to have a conversation. It's bada bing, bada bang, and you're on your way, but bring whatever you want. We'll talk about it and keep it entertaining. Now, everyone, please like the show. Everyone, please subscribe to Buckeye Huddle, because why in the world would you not? It's the best coverage in the entire Ohio State ethos. And by the way, check out BuckeyeHuddle.com. I just wrote an article about Braxton Rembert, and it is, I believe, a free article on the site. So go check that one out today. Of course, you can always join the site if you want to join the site. That's really fantastic. That would be awesome of you. That's kind of how we, how we make things roll over at Buckeye Huddle. And we get the best board ever. I love it. Brandingo says, hope we keep him, but if I had to pick one position group that we could afford to lose someone, it would be wide receiver. You know, you're probably right. I'm of the mind that Caden Dixon-Wyatt is a number one, man. And they got Booby Feaster. They got Booby Feaster in their class already. If they get Caden Dixon-Wyatt, in the way their wide receivers are playing now, I mean, that's a tempting spot to go play wide receiver. They're really tearing it up. We will talk about Oregon and USC here probably in a few. But first, our Buckeyes, as they play their final trash game in this streak of 5 trash games, enormous favorites at home against Rutgers for Senior Day. Carson Hinsman will not be participating in Senior Day drills as of right now, because Carson Hinsman has not made his mind up as to whether or not he's going to be exiting the program for the NFL draft. And wouldn't it just be fantastic if he stuck around? That would be so great. Of course, he won Offensive Player of the Week. 9 knockdowns, Ryan Day said. He had 9 knockdowns, and it's hard to knock down a trash can 9 times. So high praise for Carson Hinsman. I would sure love to retain him. But when you look at Rutgers and you look at Maryland, talent-rich places that don't spend their money on football. And that, to me, like if I'm a big dog in the Big Ten and this private equity deal, right? It's not technically private equity deal, but what it does is, and who cares how you feel about private equity, the big thing here is it locks Ohio State onto everybody in the Big Ten till 2046. And the reason that the lower level guys want that so bad is not just for the money. The money's great, but they want to lock onto Ohio State and Michigan and Penn State and Oregon and USC and Nebraska so that they have a football future and the big dogs can't walk away from them and go do something if something else comes up, because they'll surely be on the outside looking in, and that's their own fault because they don't invest the whirlwind of money that they get into football. And it's pathetic. And if I was running Rutgers, man, I'll tell you the first thing I would do. The first thing I would do is you got to make it cooler for the recruits. And I do think about things like this. If you're running Rutgers, those Jersey boys want to play for Jersey State, not Rotgut Rutgers. Jersey State. I'm rebranding Jersey State on everything. Now, Rutgers is the State University of New Jersey. Put Jersey all over everything. They want to play. Look at all the Buckeyes right now that would be playing for Jersey State if it was a cool destination. Quincy Porter, IGB, Deshaun Stewart, Des Jones. Who else? We got a bunch. We got a bunch of Jersey boys. Jalen McClain, a ton of them. They would all be at home if I was running the branding at New Jersey. Now, yesterday, Ryan Day's press conference, he was asked a couple of questions about Rutgers. That was a couple too many. Buckeyes 31.5-point favorites. And when we look at getting to Indy, the Big Ten championship, he talked about getting to Indy a lot. And they sure definitely do want to get to Indy. I think it's just another way of saying we want to win the damn game. We want to win the game, and the game now, guys, just 10 days away. After the game, after the Big Ten championship, should they make it there, 24 days, I think they got to wait, which is going to be brutal, waiting that 24 days to get to the playoffs. And we had a 20-day layoff last year after the game before the Tennessee game, but we had a lot to talk about in that 20 days. This time, that 24 days is going to drag quite a bit. And this is the 24-day drag that those Oregon fans are still whining about from last year. And it is not going to be fun waiting 24 days. And I hate this about this 12-team format. No worry, Tony Petitti, the Big Ten commissioner, is trying to get us a new playoff format as he has pitched this to the other powers that be, a 24-team playoff. And I'll explain a little further as to what he wants to see on tomorrow's episode of Juck on Bucks. But I'm excited, man. The game is 10 days away. I'm starting to get the butterflies. I'm starting to get into that normal feel. It'll be about 5 days out before I get the massive butterflies, but it's right on the top of my mind here. It's just get through Rutgers. And what I always love about the game before the game is in the post-game press conference after Rutgers, there won't be a single question about Rutgers. It'll all be for next week, which is always so much fun. But the Buckeyes will finally, get into the portion of the season where they are tested, where they can, have some competition and people won't downplay them. And I just don't think that football if you can't look at this team, regardless of who they're playing, and realize how good it is. But speaking of being tested, there is an article that just dropped about 3 hours ago that I want to share with you. And I'm going to pull this puppy up now. I'm not great at doing this, so hopefully I can get it right the first time. I think it's worked. All right, it's on the screen. Now, the header of this article, and this is from Football Scoop, Ohio State quarterback Julian Sayin has no business winning the Heisman Trophy, and he begins the article. This is from Zach Barnett. Let's begin with a confession. I have not watched a lot of Ohio State this year. That's how he begins his argument for Ohio State quarterback Julian Sayin has no business winning the Heisman Trophy with, I got a confession, I've not watched the kid play, which is just unbelievable. Like, if that's how you start an article, I would think that's your cue that you should stop writing the damn article. But he doesn't stop. He goes on to make himself look like a bigger moron. He goes on about the Texas game and how good Ohio State's been all year. On the surface, his Heisman candidacy makes sense. He's on pace to shatter the FBS single season completion percentage record at 80.1, and he's tied for second nationally with 9.5 yards an attempt. He leads the nation in passing efficiency. His 186.23 rating outpaces Caleb Williams and Bryce Young in their Heisman Trophy seasons. And yet the statistic that I find most compelling about Sayin's season is this one: 0. That's the number of passes Sayin has thrown this season while trailing or tied in the second half. That's his argument. He's not thrown a pass in the second half either trailing or tied. And of course, you could say what any normal person would say. Well, why is that? He must be leading that offense to scoring a whole lot of points and getting a lead, so much so that his team is never trailing in the second half. And he doesn't even need to stress it. That to this guy is not a pat on the back for a job well done. It is an elimination. And we are hearing this kind of nonsense all over the country. And I know that some of you don't care about the Heisman. I get it. I think this speaks to a broader point of how Ohio State gets treated nationally. It's just ridiculous. I look at everything with a very open mind. Some of you get mad at me. I remove myself as an Ohio State fan, and I'm critical sometimes of things about Ohio State football. And some of you guys get irritated, and I get it. But to not have the ability to remove your biases and judge something fairly is something I just can't relate to. That guy, I don't know where he's from or what he's got going on, but he's clearly got some biases against Ohio State to say something and make himself look like such an imbecile in print. He put it out there for the world to see. Anyway, a terrible slate of games this Saturday, guys. And a lot of times we say that, and then it turns out to be, there's a bunch of upsets. It's a fantastic time. We all enjoyed it, and we talk on Monday about what a great slate it ended up being. But as far as games of consequence, I think this one is actually just going to be really crappy. You've got a couple of big games, and one of them not even that big, as number 22 Missouri, who may or may not have Bo Pribula back, goes to number 8 Oklahoma. Now, Oklahoma got to win to stay in the playoff race, or they could potentially lose because people have talked about just how crazy difficult their schedule is all year since before the year started. The thing about that is when you look at their schedule before the year and look at it now, with 4 of those wins being against South Carolina, who is now 3-7, Auburn, who fired their coach, LSU, who fired their coach, and Missouri, who doesn't have their starting quarterback. Well, that's 4 games right off the rip that aren't so tough. They did play Ole Miss, Tennessee, Alabama, Texas, and Michigan. We got to play Texas and Michigan, and I would have done anything to have their schedule this year. That would have been awesome. But in the 3:30 slot, we got the Big Ten banger. USC, number 15, heads into Oregon to play number 7. Oregon, a 9.5-point favorite. And if you had asked me what I thought the line was going to be on this, I'd have probably said 6. 9.5 seems like a lot. I would take USC in all those points, but I'm taking the week off from gambling because it ain't been going so hot. But the people, I think, are overestimating Oregon and underestimating USC a little bit. Also, maybe not factoring in Dan Lanning's record in big games. This guy's not been good. He's not been good at all. And as much as I hate USC, and, we're talking old Pac-12 days, I am rooting for Oregon 10 out of 10 times in this matchup. For me, Michigan, USC, Miami, 1, 2, 3, hate them all so much. Oregon, I don't have hate for Oregon. But if USC loses this game, they're done. So this is essentially a playoff game for USC. And these are the types of games that people who wanted the expansion of the playoff would say, look, we do this, and then you get games like this where they're in a do or die situation. So it is essentially a playoff game for them, but very important for Oregon as well. When we look at Oregon, they've only lost 1 game this year, and that game was to Indiana at home. If they lose another game and at home, that's pretty rough when you look at their wins over Oklahoma State, Northwestern, Oregon State, Penn State, who, the committee chair brought that up yesterday. And I was of the same mind that after Oregon beat Penn State fell apart, and Oregon still deserved a lot of credit for that victory. But as the season's gone on and we've seen, okay, I don't think this Penn State talent was all it was cracked up to be in the first place. It's really lost its luster, even as, even trying to give them credit for that. So not much credit, but they also beat Rutgers, Wisconsin, Iowa by 2 points in Minnesota, Iowa by 2 points at Iowa, the best victory that they have. And they still got to play Washington. So, it might be pretty close for them. I just don't think Oregon's that good this year. I really don't. And I think USC, better than they're being given credit for, I think they'll be able to score on them quite a bit. And I'm really looking forward to that. So that's at 3:30. course, we got the game in 10 days, and as Ohio State has Rutgers, Michigan has the other East Coast bottom dweller, Maryland. Michigan needs to win this game at Maryland to come into the game at 9-2 with the playoffs on the line for them, which I very much want to happen. Of course, I'm not going to watch them playing Maryland and root for them. I'll root for them to be upset like I always do. But should they win? I mean, it's kind of a win-win, right? If they lose, it's hilarious. And if they win, I wanted them to be 9-2 because I want the stakes to be as high as possible. They're a 13.5-point favorite, and they're coming off what I thought was, honestly, it was a sloppy game with 5 turnovers to none against Northwestern on Saturday. But I felt like Bryce Underwood looked a lot better than he has, and he was on the road at Wrigley. He's got a good connection going on with freshman out of Texas, Andrew Marsh. Really good wide receiver. He'll be good for years to come. Those two, a good little connection. And if they go into Maryland and blow out Maryland, they're going to be feeling on cloud 9. I mean, they're on a roll. So they're cooking, and that's exactly what they want to be coming into the game. And I'll be watching that one, of course, after the post-game show, which will be here on Buckeye Huddle. Me and Mark, and I don't know who's joining us after the Buckeyes game. Now, the evening slate of games is maybe the worst evening slate we've had in years. We have got Pitt at Georgia Tech on ABC, Tennessee at Florida on whatever the hell, Illinois at Wisconsin, and Nebraska at Penn State. That is our evening slate. I mean, there's not a single game there to watch other than the Big 12 game, which is from Nippert. Now, this is what I'll be cued in on as Cincinnati welcomes in BYU. And this would have been a massive game had Cincinnati not blown it last week. These two teams would have both had just one loss in the Big 12 trying to get to the championship game. Now it's BYU. BYU needs to beat Cincinnati to get to the championship game and play Texas Tech. I'm not rooting for BYU. I'm rooting for Cincinnati because I think that the best matchup in that Big 12 championship game is a rematch of Utah and Texas Tech because BYU could not compete with Texas Tech at all. Utah could. Therefore, we need Cincinnati to win that game. They're just a 2.5-point underdog. So the Bearcats at Nippert Stadium, we're rooting for that one. But outside of that, man, the trashiest of trash slates there ever was. Not looking forward to it, and I can't believe I'm saying that this late in the season, thanks to the SEC playing Mercer and East Carolina State, etc. Now, if I could remind you guys to please do like the show, that would be fantastic. And if you have not subscribed yet to Buckeye Huddle, we certainly love that as well. The screen is weird. Is the screen weird for you guys? Buckeye Nation says the screen is weird. It looks great on my end. Yeah, let's like the video. Thanks, buddy. Let's like the video. Ryan says it'll come down to if Lanning takes his shirt off on national TV again, like he did for IU. If he keeps it on, I like their chances. Do you remember the slit the jugular? That was his saying out at Penn State. Man, he's such a strange guy, dude. Cut the jugular, cut the jugular. He was doing this on TV, the weirdo. Ryan Day's presser yesterday, the Ohio NIL conversation came up. So we've talked about this, but Ohio, one of just a few states now that does not have NIL for high school kids, as this just was a topic, like a brand new topic. I remember I did it when Florida first legalized it. And when Florida first legalized it, Ohio State was still in on wide receivers Jamie French and Vernell Brown. And they immediately did an American Eagle ad, which everybody then thought meant they were going to Ohio State because of the connection with the Schottensteins and American Eagle. But no dice. But that wasn't long ago, man. It was like 15 months ago. And at the time, there weren't that many states that had NIL legal. And now there's like 44. So Jameer Brown, the number one player in the state of Ohio, Buckeye commit in class 2027, top 3 wide receiver in the country, challenged this law, took it to court, and claimed that, they got a $100,000 offer on the table that they can't take or Jameer's going to lose his eligibility. And at the time, OHSAA, so they voted against NIL 3 years ago. And I know a lot of people are against high school NIL, but I mean, if we're just being honest here, it is unconstitutional and it's going to lose. Like if somebody wants to make money legally, you can't really say that they're not allowed to make it. We've seen this same suit go time and time again and lose every time. So Jameer always going to win that lawsuit. But as soon as it got to court, before they even heard the case, a judge put a moratorium on the Ohio High School Athletic Association from being able to enforce that rule, which means currently all Ohio high school kids can earn NIL right now and retain their eligibility, which everybody should be in favor of at this point, because when you got a high school athlete in the state of Ohio who can earn NIL, which let's be honest, how many of them can actually earn NIL? 5, 6, like real money? Probably not even that many. And their option is to now stay in Ohio and not make money, or leave the state and go make money, which means we got to get with the times here, which Ryan Day essentially said as he was asked about it yesterday. I thought he would be a little more effusive in his support. He was a little milk toasty, but he said when you look at the rest of the nation, it's kind of become the standard. Maybe 10 years ago, everybody would have said no way, but that was a different time, and it certainly was. Speaking of NIL in high school, we have got 3 now high school recruits committed to the class of 2026 who have got sweet deals, as Buckeye commit Blaine Bradford has just signed on with Under Armour as a model. So he is modeling Under Armour. We've also got Chris Henry Jr. and Caden Dixon Wyatt, who both work for Adidas now. So we've got guys coming in to Ohio State already with massive endorsements, which is pretty awesome. That is, let's be honest, if he was going to LSU, I don't think he'd have that deal. And that's why I always thought, and still do, if it really comes down and the House settlement really is starting to work and third-party NIL deals are really where it's at, Ohio State is positioned so beautifully with that. I don't think anybody can compete at quite the highest level as Ohio State when it comes to third-party NIL deals. The power and the notoriety when you are a star at Ohio State, it's bigger than anywhere else. Notre Dame, I would say, is probably pretty comparable as well. But Notre Dame doesn't have the entire state of Ohio. Everybody in the state of Ohio, every business wants a piece of Ohio State. They want to work with Ohio State. What was that? Did you guys hear that? Something just came through my microphone. Oh, man. Anyway, Ryan Day was also asked about the situation at right guard. So we've seen Gabe Van Sickle for the last 2 games. The first game was a little rough. Last game, he did much better. Josh Padilla's been out. So Padilla most likely going to be coming back. Are we going to see Padilla get back into that spot at right guard, rotating in with Tegra? Are we going to potentially see all 3 of them? Day said, we'll probably just keep it to 2 unless we get a really high amount of snaps, which probably not going to happen. As you know, actually, the snaps have gone up the last couple of games. Defensive snaps have gone. I think they only had 43 defensive snaps last game, which Ryan Day did mention was that's why you see our guys on defense looking so fresh, and they certainly do. But let's get to JJ and Cornell. So Ryan Day, of course, was asked a series of questions about JJ and about Cornell as people tried to, get him to say something in any kind of anything. And they asked him several different ways. And he continually answers with, our policy is not to speak on injuries. And then today at the lightning round press conference on Wednesday, asked about CJ Donaldson, who, remember, CJ Donaldson did not play last week because he was on the availability report. So he didn't play last week, assuming it was an injury. And he was asked about Donaldson today, and he said he looks strong and he had a good practice today, which is interesting. Sounds kind of like you're commenting on that injury. I don't know, man. I don't know how we're differentiating here, but there are a lot of people still freaking out about, is Cornell shutting it down? Is JJ not going to play against Michigan? And after Purdue, Ryan Day said Cornell Tate was held out and he probably could have gone against Purdue. Had some tightness, right? We've all heard maybe Achilles, maybe calf. So he went from probably could have played to street clothes against UCLA. And then he was asked on Tuesday about Jeremiah at the Illinois game. Remember the big hit, Max Clare and Austin Saraville went out, didn't get their block, let a guy run straight through. And JJ took a nasty hit, fell funny, grabbed his back. He was asked if it was that hit that is maybe perhaps a lingering issue. He said no. And then he was asked, was there any setback from Jeremiah in the UCLA game? And he said no. So that confirms a couple things. Number one, it confirms that the limp Jeremiah had after the game did not happen in the UCLA game. So whatever was ailing him, he came into that game with already. Which begs the question, why is he playing that game if he already had that? And I think it gives us a clear answer. He can't do any more damage to it. And the only thing that's going to make it better is extended rest, which he can't have. So that makes me feel good, even better about it. But then Ryan Day said they're both in good spirits and trying hard to get back. And that comment right there had some people nervous, both in good spirits. That sounds like you're injured when you're saying they're in good spirits. You know what I mean? Like that just like, something about that choice of words makes me feel like, yeah, I don't really like the sound of they're in good spirits. Like they were really down and now they're in good spirits. I don't know, man, but people are shook. People are shook. And I totally get it, man. We've been through this with JSN, with Nick Bozo. We see a superstar shut it down for the year. We've been traumatized over this. But do you remember what Jeremiah Smith said about the game and about Michigan around Big Ten Media Days and how much he hates them and how public he was with that? Do you remember? I remember talking to my brother after the game last year. We were talking about, wow, that's a freshman that has hate in his heart. You could see it on the field. And sometimes we don't see that from a guy his first go round in the game. And sometimes we see guys fake it, fake tough guy, get a penalty. Jeremiah had hate in his heart, man. He had hate in his heart. He's talked about it. I don't think there is any way in hell you could keep him off the field. He hates them. He probably doesn't even know the reason. I do. The reason is because of loyalty. He's got a very deep sense of loyalty. If his family's got beef, he's got beef. And his family's got big beef with them, so he does too. He wouldn't miss that game for anything. Not a thing. And I'm positive that he fought to even play that UCLA game, and it had nothing to do with his personal stats. He wanted to get in there and play. So the thought of JJ missing Michigan to me is absurd. It'll never happen. And we've now already seen him play with this injury. How'd he look? Didn't affect his play one bit. He was in pain afterwards. He'll suck it up and deal with that. And then after the Big Ten championship, remember, 24 days rest, which is essentially what Cornell Tate is going to have if he sits out this upcoming week against Rutgers. It seems to me like the UCLA sit out of Cornell was totally precautionary, and they'll probably do it again this week, and that's fine. That's good. I'm looking forward to seeing these backup wide receivers play again myself. They need some more work, and it would be really nice to see them kind of break off with some really good performances. So that's that with that from the press conference. I don't think anything else interesting came out of there, but we did maybe a couple comments about recruiting. But as it comes to recruiting, like we just talked Monday, right? We just talked Monday, and there are 2 more recruits. I do a recruit video, a commit video for every one of these guys. And I've done it since I started my show. And I'm telling you, it has been something for poor little Juck here, man. Like I'm constantly doing another one on top of the show and writing articles and such in real life. You know, something's got to give here. This can't go on forever. But we have now seen an absurd record. 13 total commits in the last 40 days, 9 of them in the class of 26 and the rest in 2027. But we just saw Brody McNeil commit, and Brody McNeil, this is the guy I was talking about at the offensive line, the blue chip offensive lineman that was going to commit over the weekend. It was Brody. He waited till Tuesday. But Brody, I really like Brody. Brody is 6 foot, 280 now, listed as an interior guy, and I'm not so sure, similar to Kellen Weimer, that he doesn't have the versatility to play any position on the offensive line. Now, he's only got 33-inch arms, which could technically preclude you from playing offensive tackle, but we've seen how Tyler Bowen is with these guys. He likes the 6'5" guy that can swing either way, and he'll decide what you're best suited for. Nobody would ever look at Austin Saravel's build and say that's a left tackle. So now that we've seen that, anything's up for grabs here. Brody is not as fleet of foot or athletic as Kellen Weimer, but he does move well, plays through the whistle. He's a real smooth athlete, got good flexibility, doesn't look rigid or stiff, and he is a bit of a mauler. So I actually kind of would put him in between in his playing style between Mason Wilt and Kellen Weimer. Mason Wilt is just a meathead guard road grader, and Weimer is an athletic tackle. I would say that Brody is right in between them. So now you got three in the class of 2027 on the offensive line. And Brody, a Rivals 4-star, top 125 overall, 247 composite. He is a 4-star, number 234 overall, the number 3 player in Virginia. Had not acquired yet a massive offer list. Penn State, Tennessee, the best outside of Ohio State. But Tyler Bowen, remember from Virginia Tech, where he was an offensive coordinator, knows Virginia well. And he found him when he was at Virginia Tech. He also knows Virginia well from when he was at Penn State. And Brody, also a basketball player, as is his sister, who plays at Dayton. So they were just at Ohio the week before his visit to UCLA, watching his sister play in Dayton. And that probably had something to do with him coming to Ohio State. So Brody locked in, the third offensive lineman in the class of 2027. That class, now it's top 3 in the country, which doesn't matter at all at this point, but moves up to 7 commits. I really love all 7 players that are in there right now. And those players include Angelo Smith, young JJ's brother, or JJ's younger brother. So loving that class, but that's not the only commit, as we also got Braxton Rembert. Braxton Rembert, the most recent commit, and he is a linebacker out of Hoshton, Georgia, goes to Mills Creek High School. That is Caleb Downs High School. And he is a fascinating prospect, man. At 6'5", 200 pounds, he is unbelievably long, and he's very intrigued by James Laurinaitis. James Laurinaitis, obviously very intrigued by him. Braxton was committed to the 56th ranked Wake Forest class before the Buckeyes came calling. As unique as his size is, the list of suitors was not. William and Mary, Gardner-Webb, East Tennessee, Samford, Southern Miss. Now, he did have all 3 military academies, which tells you a lot about a young guy. Number 1, he's smart. 2, respectful, got the right stuff about him. But he chose to go to Wake Forest out of all those offers. Wake Forest, the only Power 5, Power 4 offer he had, which shows us that he is wanting to play football. It's about football for him. And as you can see on the film, despite being just 200 pounds, I mean, a sure tackler, not afraid to stick his nose in there. He's a hammer. I mean, I love watching the kid play, for real. Some people concerned 6'5", a little too tall for a linebacker. I think Sonny's 6'4.5" right now, so doesn't concern me a bit. And if he ends up playing edge, so be it. Also a great hoop star. Scores a lot of points on the basketball court. So a total stud that James Laurinaitis got. When I asked him, why did he choose Ohio State? He told me the story that James kind of has a mantra. James has a mantra that he talks to his linebackers. So Braxton said, James Laurinaitis told me his story, how he was a 3-star and how he had a similar recruiting process to me. He told me that Ohio State every year were bringing in your replacement, and that's how it is in the NFL as well. I felt that Ohio State, I would never be able to become complacent as to where I'm at with the team. So Laurinaitis' mantra with the guys, as he says, and this is how I felt when I was a player, is what he's saying to them. Ohio State was always trying to bring in my replacement. So I had to make sure that didn't happen. And that is how I'm going to treat you guys. I'm always trying to replace you, and you need to make sure it doesn't happen. That's what he says to his linebackers. Now, if you are somebody who is committed to play at Wake Forest and you got a Hall of Famer talking to you, telling you he's trying to replace you, and you jump into that, you're made of the right stuff, man. You're made of the right stuff. I got a ton of respect for that kid. And especially when it's a guy who, was ranked as a 3-star, the 1,300th ranked prospect in the country. Now, regarding that, I asked him if he felt like he had been overlooked with the lack of big time offers, with the, not very flattering rankings. And he said, no, I don't feel overlooked. I felt a little unlucky, but God has a plan for everyone. The reason why I say unlucky is because I was hurt my sophomore and junior year, and God blessed me to have the opportunity to have a successful senior year. A successful senior year indeed, as everything had to line up for Braxton to get this opportunity. For one, local Massillon star Jaden Williams stuck with his Indiana offer and did not flip to Ohio State. For two, the portal ruling, which has led Ohio State to decide to bring in a larger class. Three, revenue sharing, which has pushed Ohio State to want to wait longer to review as much senior film as possible. And then there's even being discovered by Ohio State. But there's more. This week, Rivals came out with their newest rankings, as did 24/7. Braxton went from a no-name, nobody, number 1,300 in the country, to a 4-star at both Rivals and 247. He is the top 202 ranked prospect in the country per Rivals, which actually puts him in between Ohio State's 2 linebackers that were already committed, CJ Sana and Sincere Johnson. Not even the lowest ranked linebacker. And that is something, man. What a story. This will be one that I'll be following with can you imagine 3 years from now, this guy is starting, cracks the starting lineup, and he's playing, and he's good. That guy had 1 Power 4 offer. I really dig this. I really dig this stuff. And to that, like the rankings update. So another one who had a crazy rise, Kamari Bing. Kamari Bing, the safety that Matt Guerreri brought in out of St. Francis in Maryland, who is on a team with a ton of studs. And Guerreri told him, look, I think you're the best free safety in the country. Now, that sounded like a little bit, maybe fibbing a little bit, as he was, again, similar to Braxton, like the 1,700th ranked kid in the country. 3-star, not a high 3-star, mid-range 3-star kid. And he is now a top 200 kid in the country as well. So we're talking blue chippers that Ohio State went and evaluated and out-evaluated everybody else. And I'm just sitting here thinking, like, man, this is what Iowa State does, not Ohio State. But if they have the capability to do this on top of getting the guys at the top of the board, look out, man. And Ryan Day's been talking recently about evaluations never being so important. And boy, is he right. And those evaluations really prove it. As the Ohio State scouting department, as excellent as it is, right, they're only seeing these guys that are coming in and camping in person. Other than that, they're watching film going off that. What do the boots on the ground think about some of these guys? Well, for one, Chris Henry Jr. at 247, who had lost his 5th star, has now gotten it back. He had lost it when he was injured, as he was injured most of the year last year. This year, 24 receptions for 588 yards. That's a lot of yards for 24 receptions. 5 touchdowns on the season. Not staggering numbers, but we've seen the plays that he makes. Sincere Johnson, 247. He's now their 40th overall player. Rivals 94, so a top 100 across the board. Sincere's season this year was just ridiculous. A stat stuffer. For one, he didn't play the second half in a lot of games, but 112 tackles, 8.5 sacks, 21.5 tackles for loss, 2 forced fumbles in 9 games, which is just absurd. Sincere is absolutely going to be a star middle linebacker, man. Absolute star. Now, what really is amazing is I don't think anybody expected that when Walt was on the verge of flipping Jay Timmons out of Pittsburgh, that he was really going to be like the number one corner in the country. They had him ranked at number 2 over at Rivals, but it almost felt to me like, that was an early ranking and they were going to switch it up. He moves to number 1. And not only does he move to number 1, but Charles Power, their director of scouting, says that pound for pound, he thinks Jay Timmons might just be the best football player in the entire class. Additionally, 247 moves him up into the top 50. So Jay Timmons, a total stud, one of the 50 best players in the country, that Ohio State just happened to flip late in this little run here as well. Caden Dixon-Wyatt is a lightning rod. And speaking of Charles Power, I'd love to have a discussion with him. Caden Dixon-Wyatt this year, 39 catches for 624 and 7 touchdowns. So on the same team as Chris Henry Jr., put up bigger numbers than Chris Henry Jr. And on 247, he is a top 100 kid. Top 50 kid. He's their number 47 kid. Over on Rivals, he not only doesn't crack their top 300, he is their number 47 wide receiver. We're talking way down the list. And so is Brock Boyd. These guys piss me off with this, man. Like, to say that Caden Dixon-Wyatt, I would love to sit down with Charles Power and say, let's look at your number 25 wide receiver and then look at Caden Dixon-Wyatt. And I feel like they've gotten crap about this one. And I feel like they've just dug their feet in and they're being stubborn about it. Sam Greer, this one was disappointing. So Sam moves up to 63 and 24/7. And over on Rivals, he was sitting as the number 14th ranked player in the country. You get up to 32 to be a 5-star. And I thought there was no way they were going to move Sam down long enough to drop out of 5-star range. But they did. They moved him literally one spot too low. They moved him to number 33 in the country. Can you believe that? Such a slap in the face to our guy, Sam. I couldn't even believe it. Who else do we got? Oh, Kari Wilder. Kari Wilder over on 247. So we know that for Rivals, he is their number 1 defensive lineman in the country. But over on 247, they had him outside the top 200. They've moved him up to 78. So another top 100 over at Rivals. This dude is a production machine on the defensive line. 77 tackles, 20 TFLs, 10 sacks, 25 quarterback hurries, 2 pass deflections, 3 fumble recoveries, 4 forced fumbles. That's insane. This guy's amazing. Now, bad news about Blaine Bradford, who at one time was a 5-star in this class. 247 has dropped him to 142. He's down to 67 at Rivals. So he will no longer be a 5-star. We had him as a 5-star in the composite. Not going to happen anymore. Emmanuel Ruffin stays in the top 150 at 247. That's great. But big production for Ruffin. This is another guy with big time production. And that's another thing Ohio State's focusing on this year. Production. We don't just want to see traits. We want to see a guy who knows how to play football and racks up numbers. 60 tackles from Ruffin, that big old defensive lineman. 60 tackles. That's a ton. 2 forced fumbles, 3 sacks. Legend Bay now a top 150 in both. Jaquaden Guilford, 163 at 247, 131 at Rivals. Huge score. He had 1,000 yards. He had 18 touchdowns on the year. Maxwell Riley drops out of the top 100 on 247 down to 168. Jordan Thomas drops a little bit from 135 to 175. As a cornerback, Jordan had 53 tackles. Man, this is a physical corner. And I love this corner class. Obviously, there's one huge one out there. That's CJ Bronaugh. Bucks will hope to get him too. Damari Simeon is another guy who got his 4th star from 247. He did not have it. He had it over at Rivals. Dre Quinn rises from like number 430 to 230. So that's great. And Dre, another guy with a ton of production the Bucks have just brought in, 62 tackles, 11 TFLs, 14 quarterback hurries, stud, total stud. Now, what's his name? Jaden Ricketts. Jaden Ricketts out of Pataskala. He lost his 4-star. So Jaden Ricketts, one of the only guys who dropped down from 4 stars down to 3 stars, which doesn't surprise me. We've talked about the offense that he plays in. You can't even find much film on him being a receiver. They'll hit him on swing passes, etc., and let him run. And he's a burner and he's got good moves, but difficult to judge him as a wide receiver. So anyway, that is the rankings update. All in all, I think it went really well for Ohio State. I also think that it shows a lot of the scouting they've been doing has been fantastic. So Ohio State, over the summer, as the reigning national champs, were sitting with the 9th ranked class. And post summer, we have seen this unbelievable run. And it's been so incredibly exciting that I just can't get enough of it, but I'm kind of ready for it to end at the same time because, my gosh, it's been a lot. It's been a lot of work. Chuck, what do you mean I'm tweaking? What is that supposed to mean? What do we got here, guys? Oh, Andrew, thank you for joining. Appreciate that, guys. And anybody can be a member here. Wilder absolutely made a huge jump. They finally Sam Greer looks like a superhero. Yes, he does. Richie says Greer should be a Rivals 5-star too when they release their final 7 spots. He should. We got a caller that we will go to here in a few. And if anybody else calls, we'll hop on that as well, guys. But it looks like, for the most part, I have caught up on all your questions here. What do we got here? Hardy says, how much of a threat is USC for KDW? The first I've heard is just now. I'll have to look into it. But they're always a threat, man. The money they're throwing around right now. And again, that's a California kid. And he is entering a wide receiver room that's bringing in 5 wide receivers. But, I think he knows that he is one of the top dogs. And keep in mind, he plays with Chris Henry Jr. He's a confident kid. I wouldn't be too surprised if he thought I'm the better wide receiver. Like, that's the kind of attitude he has, and he should, right? So I don't think he's scared of anything regarding those 5 wide receivers. Eli says, even when we beat Teton, the national media will say they weren't any good. That's true. That's true. They will. But what it's really going to take is, I was about to say what it's really going to take is winning in the Big Ten championship. But then they're going to say Indiana just wasn't that good too. Nah, we need to beat some of their SEC dorks. Emily, no, it did not pass yet. So they're voting for 3 days, and then they're going to release the results on the 24th, which out of like 850 schools, they just need a simple majority, and it'll surely pass. But let's go to the phones. Let's go to the phone lines to the Hot Seat Show. The Hot Seat Show. You're on Buckeye Huddle Primetime.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you. How you doing, buddy?
Good. It's Trent. I think we've had conversations before. My username is Hot Seat. That's the YouTube show I do.
You got a YouTube show?
Yeah. I started it. Well, actually, quick story. So I wanted to start it during the spring game, and the first episode I ever wanted to do was, I'm going to go to the spring game, look at some of the new players. And you know what? I thought interviewing you, because I remember we talked about you going to the spring game. Like, I'm trying to figure out, like, okay, he's going to be in 16A. And my grandpa brought me, and I was like, just like, wait here. Juck's going to be here in a second. I'm going to give him an interview. And then I come home and I'm looking, I'm like, I'm like here for like waiting for 10 minutes ago. I think something like your car broke down.
Yeah, I didn't make it, my man. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. So yeah, I waited to start it for the Texas game, but yeah, no, that it's been so fun. Because it's something I've been wanting to do forever, and then kind of seeing you do it and some other people, so I just started doing it. Yeah, super fun. Yeah.
And the name of the show is The Great Show?
The Hot Seat Show.
I'm sorry, The Hot Seat Show?
Yeah. So yeah, no, past month has been great. We've like tripled in size. Still pretty small, but we're gonna get there.
Oh, well, send me a link. I'll come on and join you one day.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, I had a couple things I want to talk about. So
yeah.
First thing, I picked, maybe Chris Drew was talking, I don't remember who talked about it, but I picked up on So I've been big on going from 12 to 14 because I feel, in my opinion, if you go to 14, since you only have 2 buys, you're going to have multiple conference champions competing for 2 buys, which means it brings style points back into conference championships games. But also with the 12 teams, since we have 4 buys and they're just to the top 4 teams, not for conference champions, Georgia, they're going to, if Alabama doesn't win the SEC, Georgia is going to be 11-1 without playing in the SEC championship and getting a bye week. So they're practically only going to play 15 games. They're going to be the most healthy team in the playoff. I know Ohio State's playing less snaps than anybody, but they're going to be the most healthy team in the playoff. And I am scared to play Georgia. So I guess how do you feel about that?
Well, it's it's definitely a flaw in the system. I think that, there's a huge flaw in the system right off the rip when you can make it to the conference championship. And if you lose, well, now you need to play 17 games.
Yeah.
But you made it to the conference championship, and the guy that didn't, he's only got a 16-game road. So that was a flaw that was built in right off the rip. Then you got that flaw that, albeit it's not something that would happen often, but it's there right there this year in year number 2. And it looks like it could very easily happen. But as far as Georgia goes, I think I was just talking about this yesterday. To me, I was talking on Twitter. Right now, I think that this is Ohio State as Team 1A and Georgia as Team 1B is the 2 best teams right now. The way they have not only were resilient enough to get through all those games, those 1-score games, they won them all. That builds, we've seen that as Ohio State fans, how much camaraderie and confidence that builds. And in addition to that, you got Gunnar Stockton, who's really coming around. Like he's turning into, like, if he was playing like this to start the year, he'd be right up there in the Heisman conversation. He already is, but not quite as close as Marcel Reed and Mendoza and Julian. But their defense not as good as it used to be, but people are pretending like it's a bad defense. They're still the 20th ranked defense in the country.
Yeah.
They don't get sacks. They don't, they don't have the flashy numbers in the flashy big men that they usually do. But, it's always going to be well coached. Offensively, they look so much more dangerous than they ever have. And I'm going to tell you the truth, though, Trent, I want them. That's who I want.
Yeah.
I don't want to get through this playoffs without facing them. And this is kind of how I felt last year when Ohio State lost the game. I wanted Ohio State to have the most difficult draw they could have, because I didn't want anybody to be able to say word boo about it. And they got the most difficult draw and they got through it. And now this year, I've been on, if you listen to me, like, I want the passing of the torch. I want it to be complete, because Georgia has been that it team for a couple of years. And since like 2021, they've been the team. They've been kind of the standard bearer of college football. Buckeyes win last year. Should have beat them in 22. If they can go through them this year, knock them out this year, it's official. Ohio State is the number 1 unequivocal program in the country. So I want them. I think the Buckeyes can beat them. And I think it'll be an amazing game. Everybody's going to want to see that, because I do think Georgia is about to continue this hot streak here.
Yeah, and I hope we get to the Big Ten title, because that was my Christmas gift, was getting tickets for that game, and I don't want to have to sell them. So hopefully we get there. But yeah, another question I have before I get out of here. I don't want to keep you for too long. So my dad just turned 40, so he grew up with the Lake Cooper era and the Tressel era. And constantly this year, when we are watching our Ohio State games, it is constant complaining and whining how this looks like Tressel ball and how it's super slow. But I was talking to him like a week ago, and I was talking about how Julian saying about how accurate. I thought he was one of the better quarterbacks we've had in the last 20 years. And he made a comment. He said, he really reminds me of Craig Krenzel. And I said, there is no way you just put Julian Sand in the same conversation as Craig Krenzel. And I guess he was talking about how Craig Krenzel he can never do no wrong. He was just he maybe not been the most explosive, but he was just perfect. He could always read defenses. He was super. He never made mistakes. He would never have like a 2-3 interception game. And I said, I think Will Howard is more like Craig Krenzel than Julian Sand. And then he said, no, Will Howard is more of a playmaker than Julian Sandin, Justin Fields, and all these other guys. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, but that seems crazy to me. But yeah, I was born in 2008, so I never got to watch Craig Krenzel. I guess how do you feel about Craig Krenzel?
So if your dad is 40, then he was just about, I don't know, 16, 17 when Craig Krenzel was playing. Straight up, bro, he misremembers Craig Krenzel. He misremembers, but that's okay because he brought us a national championship, and because of that, he has fond memories. Craig Krenzel was a very frustrating quarterback
because I felt he was more like McCord than anybody.
He wasn't even anywhere near that good of an arm. Not like McCord would smoke him. Like if we were to, I don't even want to look up the numbers. It'd be embarrassing. But no, Krenzel was not. He came up clutch, man. We won a national championship, but he was a bit of a gamer, and he certainly was more like if you would definitely describe him as more like Will Howard. He would run the ball quite a bit. Yeah. He was pretty decent runner, pretty decent athlete. The biggest compliment any announcer ever said about Craig Krenzel was that he was from Michigan and he was a molecular engineering student, and he crossed the line like that. Yeah, he wasn't a good quarterback. Yeah, but he was a good Buckeye.
Yeah, I think that, like, I get it. Like, that was his national champion. Like, for me, like, my first ever memory of Ohio State football was beating Alabama in the Sugar Bowl. So, like, Cardell's my guy. Like, Will Howard and Cardell are my guys. I get it, but yeah.
I got you.
Well, thanks. I'll definitely try to tune in sometime, and I'll send you a link so we can have you on sometime.
Yeah, send me an email, juckonbucks@gmail.com.
Yeah, I hope you liked the intro.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Chuck. See you. Good night.
Bye. I'm just now putting this together. That's Trent. Okay, I've talked to Trent many times. I didn't realize that was the Trent that I've talked to him on email. He cut up our intro for us. Trent HD. Yeah, okay. No, that's my guy. I like that guy. All right, we got the man Brandingo.
Hello,
Brandingo. What's up, buddy?
Hey, Chuck. I hope there's no bad feedback here. So if so, I apologize.
Everything sounds great. Everything sounds fantastic on the Buckeye Huddle Primetime call-in.
Hey, sweet. Okay, I have 2 questions, if that's okay. I'll keep them short.
Yeah.
Number 1, what do you put the odds of us flipping CJ Brona at?
I am at roughly 96%.
Fantastic. Okay.
I'm feeling really, really good about that, and I think we're going to find out about it real soon.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Number 2, let's say Coach Day avenges all of our past few year qualms with him during the game, smashes Michigan, and then runs through the playoffs and goes back-to-back Natty champs 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
He then decides to go off to the NFL. Who do you hire to replace him?
Oh, my goodness. So with all this talk of hiring coaches recently, I personally there are so many people who feel, you need a sitting head coach, a guy who has done it before, etc. And when we look at the successful coaches in college football, like so many of them were not head coaches first. And that's the first thing. The second thing is, I know that you can get just about anybody at Ohio State before. I don't know if it's so easy now, because now, like, even when we talk about the Lane Kiffin situation, he's probably going to end up leaving Ole Miss, but really, does he need to leave Ole Miss to reach all his goals? He doesn't anymore. Like, there's so many schools where you can actually win a national championship, where they support you. Like, even if you look at Joey McGuire at Texas Tech, do you think he'd leave anywhere, would leave to go anywhere right now? Like, he's at Texas Tech and he'd probably stay there. I don't think anybody could lure him away, because you can just buy your way to having everything that you need to be able to go compete. But when you talk about hiring a coach, to me, it is so much more about the man. It's so much more about, like, if I could sit across from you and you can check all these boxes as a competent individual, and I know that people will follow you, like, I feel so good about it. Honestly, as we watched Day step in for Urban, I don't know that I would feel uncomfortable at all moving from that direction to James Laurinaitis. It ain't going to be Heartline. It's Laurinaitis for me.
Hey, okay.
Look, I have James Laurinaitis. When you are around this guy, it is like, I can't even describe it, man. There's a different energy when anybody is around. It's just like people are in awe of this dude. And it's not because he's obviously physically, but he's just a different kind of magnetism. He's number one, he's brilliant. He's super smart. He can work anybody in a conversation. He's got it all. I mean, he's got it all. Guys want to follow him. Hart, on the other hand, very similar in a lot of ways, but just to me, they both want to be head coaches. I know that for a fact. I feel like Hart would be, people would say he's, next up because he's been doing it longer, but I think there's going to be one that's going to be better. And I think it's going to be James. And to me, that's a can't miss right there. It's a can't miss right there. You can't miss. So
I'll just say it's funny. What was it? A few years ago, the rumor was they didn't even have the faith in James Laurinaitis to give him the linebacker position, right? So linebacker coach, excuse me. So he's really climbed the ranks. And I'll say he did turn around the linebacker room in just a few years. So yeah, I'm not really hating on your idea.
I think that was more about, there was a conversation about, can we potentially bring in, can we keep James around for one more year under this role and bring in a second defensive line coach who is a big name kind of defensive line coach, but you couldn't bring a guy like that, wouldn't come in under a GA role. But if you can bring him in as a secondary defensive line coach, as a position coach, you can pay him a lot of money. Because remember, at the time, you couldn't coach on field, only one GA spot. So you'd have to bring in one extra guy there. So that was a lot of the stuff I was hearing about as to why there was that delay, is they were kicking that around. But to do it, Larry had to be ready to leave pretty soon, and it became clear that he wasn't. But that was at a time where, Larry's kind of redeemed himself right now on the trail. Things were rough at that point, right? Like the 23, 24 cycle, 23 dip down, 24 was really bad. You got Edric Houston and Dominic Kirks, and Day kind of had to come in and save the day with Edric. But yeah, I don't think that was a lack of faith so much as that was trying to have a little ingenuity with what you could do with that hire and potentially still keep James happy for one more year in that GA role, which I do think he would have been. He's a team guy, but he certainly wants it. He definitely wants to be a head coach. Now, his experience isn't long enough that anybody would really consider this, and I get that. But to me, it's so much about the man, about the person, about the individual. And like, he's just competent in every avenue and people just love him. When you listen to him talk about Ohio State, like, you've never heard Brian Hartline talk about Ohio State like you've heard James Laurinaitis talk about it. Like, you just haven't. It's just different. So that's where I would go first.
Got it. Thank you so much, Chuck. Have
Thanks,
a great night.
Brandingo. Appreciate you,
Bucks.
brother. And that is our buddy Brandingo, who in the chat, helping me out every day, keeping the conversation going, which I love. So we always appreciate him. Now, we've heard from 4 or 5 of the regulars here in the first 2 days of doing the calls, which means there are several of you who are up here pretty soon next week. So we're going to need to get you up. As Hardy says, Stockton's still inconsistent, and I was higher on him than most coming into the season. Bleberg says, who has the most 5 stars? You must not have heard my show the other day, Bleberg. My gosh. If we're just going by rivals, just specifically rivals internal rankings, you guys aren't going to believe this. You ready for this? Notre Dame has 6 5 stars. Do you believe this? 6 5 stars. It's insane. It's insane. This is the school Brian Kelly left because you couldn't get this kind of guy at the school. Marcus is the absolute man, dude. Marcus is unbelievable. So, by the way, my point, and I'm not even bringing up Marcus when we talk about head coaches, because I know Marcus wouldn't leave Notre Dame. He would not leave Notre Dame to come to Ohio State. A lot of people disagree with that. I don't think he would consider it for a second. I think every single call that comes in, he's got an auto reply. No, no, no. He's not going anywhere. He is right where he wants to be. The family is happy. He is perfectly content in his life. Things are going great in his career. He has no reason to shake the boat to go anywhere, including his alma mater, which we all know he's taking a few swipes at here and there. He wants to beat his alma mater. That's what he wants to do. Yes, 6 5-stars in the class of 2026. It's insane. Yeah, Bleberg is an ND fan, but he's a loyal Juckeye. He's always kicking around. So anyway, guys, I appreciate y'all so much. We will do it again on Monday. And until then, please do like the show on your way out if you haven't already, and subscribe to Buckeye Huddle. We'll talk to you then. Jug and Bucks out.